Well, good evening, everyone. We are here again for another Ask the Doggy Experts Live. My name is Andrew Frazier, founder of DogiZone, and I'm joined here this evening with one of our training experts, George Cockrell. George, good to have you here again.
Glad to be here.
We're excited to be here inside on this extremely hot day, which I'm sure we'll need to spend some time talking about while we're here. For those of you that this is your first time joining us, we're super glad that you decided to take some time out of your evening to learn more about caring for your dog. And for those of you who are returning, we're very excited to have you back. And so many of you already know that we love to hear from you as we're going through our segment here and love to get questions from you. So if you have questions that come up as we're talking, please go ahead and throw them into the chat bar. We'd love to hear from you. And because it's been the 4th of July weekend and a lot of people have been traveling, I'd love to just have some comments from you guys that are watching to hear a little bit about what is it that you've been doing with your dog so far this summer? We'd love to hear what are some of the activities that you're doing with your dog. Are you taking them to the park? Are you traveling with them? What are some of the things that you are having fun doing? So while you all are thinking about that and putting some comments in for us, George, it's been we've been really quite popular here over the past several weeks, to say the least. Lots going on here, and you know, we had the 4th of July weekend, and you know that always presents interesting times for people. But
interesting dog problems.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't have fireworks this year, so
we did.
You did.
Yeah. We're up north, but yeah. So
yeah, it's usually something that we would spend time talking about, but you know, a lot of people didn't have to deal with that this year. So, but needless to say, fireworks are one of those things that everybody should be really careful with their dogs. And
absolutely,
you know, just keep it in mind for future, because I know a lot of you went out and bought fireworks instead of going to the fireworks, and that could be equally as dangerous because you're setting them off there at your house, and you know, obviously, it's even more difficult to keep that stress away from your dog. So for those of you that did buy fireworks and kept some extra ones around afterwards, just keep that in mind, that it is pretty stressful for most dogs if they have not been conditioned to it. So George, why don't we just kind of get into the meat of things here? I think one of the focuses that we wanted to kind of chat with everybody about tonight was hot weather.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember when I first started getting into dog training, I had my 6-month-old Malinois Fat Lonnie, and I took him to Las Vegas with me. And I took him to a training course. I was there for 3 weeks. It was the middle of the summer in Las Vegas, and my dog was not used to it at all. And it was pretty hard on him, and I learned a lot from it. So, George, maybe we can talk to people about helping to get our dogs conditioned to hot weather. There's a lot of things that we need to do to be really safe, and we're going to talk to you about that. But maybe we can talk a little bit about what are some of the ways that we can actually help our dogs to get more comfortable and more conditioned to this, so it's less threatening to them.
Yeah, and I would, the first thing I would do, and I've already done this with my dogs, but is when these temperatures start getting well above 80, I take them out for short periods of time, but gradually increasing the amount of time. I take in the mornings, I take the new Doberman, for instance, out around 11-ish before I come into work, and I train him, I work him around a little bit, and I'm watching him. I've been able to get him out there for a good 30 minutes now, but at first he was cooking out about 10 minutes in, kind of, you know, tongue all hanging out. We got a great picture of him on Facebook with his tongue all hanging out. You shouldn't go that far, but 10 minutes I didn't think was too long, but apparently it was for him. So gradually acclimating them to the temperatures. Don't go out in the middle of the day. Start working in the mornings. This time of night, just before dusk, you know, just before dark, it's usually 10 degrees or more cooler. than it is in the middle of the day. I wouldn't expect, I've been getting everybody a free pass on their homework. Everybody's been coming in saying, I didn't do my homework, George. You're going to kill me. And because it's so hot. And I said, no, I'm going to let you off the hook. But what I've been teaching all week is a lot of activities that they can do outside for a very short 5-10 minutes. I'm showing them things they can do in the house, in the air conditioning, and still gain some real headway in their training. And then I'll get back on them when this weather breaks a little bit about, getting out there and moving with the dog. But right now I'm letting them off the hook. It's not pleasant for anybody. Dog doesn't like it. And if they don't like it, they're not learning. So,
yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, especially if you're trying to train out in the heat. You can really be putting your dog into some serious conflict, and obviously making it much more difficult for yourself to make any progress with the dog. So that's really, really key point. I'm glad you mentioned that. So let's chat a little bit about, actually helping the dogs out a little and making things more comfortable. What are some of the things that we can do? And I went this past weekend. I decided to go for a bike ride, and it was really, really hot when I decided to do so. But I was lucky because I was back in the woods where there was a lot of shade, and it was probably at least 10 degrees cooler being in the shade there. And so being really strategic about where you're going to take your dog to exercise them, walking your dog around in the neighborhood on blacktop where you have reflection coming off the siding of almost all of the houses is going to be a much, much warmer environment than, say, if you take your dog back into a deep forest canopy. And so that's something that I would definitely keep in mind.
Yeah, and that black ground holds heat. Black absorbs light and heat. And the temperature of the pavement's actually significantly higher than the air temperature. It actually keeps getting hotter and hotter. Good rule of thumb is when you go out, I've done this in my own driveway, put the back of my hand down and give it what I call the 5-second rule. And if it starts getting uncomfortable in 5 seconds, I'm not going to have the dogs on that pavement for very long. I'm going to get them in the grass. And don't, while we're on grass, don't mistake AstroTurf for natural grass as far as cooling. As we learned last year or the year before when we first put down the AstroTurf and we didn't have the roof, the canopies, that AstroTurf got pretty darn hot to the point where we're wondering why these dogs are dancing, and I felt it, and so we adapt and overcome. But I get them on the grass in a hurry. They don't need to be walked. Blacktop's hotter than white concrete, but even white concrete can be. Just imagine yourself walking across that in your bare feet.
Yeah.
Yep.
That pretty much sums it up. Yeah, I think that hand trick, if you will, is one of the best things. You don't need to go and get a thermometer gun to measure the temperature of the driveway and where you're walking your dog. You can just go ahead and simply put the back of your hand right down on the pavement and see, is it uncomfortable for you? If it is, then it's most likely going to be uncomfortable for your dog. Now, there's some things that you can get for your dog's feet, but their feet is a way that our dogs expel also a lot of the excessive heat that they're experiencing. And so I'm not a big fan of covering the dog's paws up and constricting them in any type of way. So I'm not as big of a fan of that. But trying to find yourself the right environments to be exercising the dog is going to be really important. One of the things that we do here at DogiZone, we'd actually just got a whole bunch more of them, is we have a bunch of, they're not like kids pools, but they're similar to kids pools. And these are actually called stock tanks, and you can purchase them at.
They're a little more heavy duty.
Oh yeah, a lot more heavy duty. Yeah. If they can stand up to all of the dogs that come through our facility, I'm sure that they will work great for your dog. And they're probably about $70 or $80 if I'm not mistaken, and you can use them year after year after year, and they really do last a long time. And they're a great way to just have the dog able to cool off in a very quick period of time.
Yep. They're very handy too. You can use those when you're giving your dog, your bigger dogs a bath, or, they're pretty handy.
Yep.
So we have one out in the training yard that occasionally we'll fill up, like for as an obstacle or something. If the people are into it, we'll let them go ahead and get in there and get wet. I'll probably fill one up tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good distraction for obedience too. Practicing sitting and downing in the water.
Yep, we do it in the puppy class. I haven't taught a puppy class in a while now, but I teach those pups how to get into a tub on command and get in there and get, put a little bit of water and get them all wet. And so we eliminated that fear of water and that fight during so a lot of owners really like the idea that we did that. So.
Yeah, great way to just get dogs comfortable with the water to begin with, and which is another great thing to just talk about. I mean, obviously, if you want your dog to enjoy the water, I don't usually suggest the throw them into the deep end approach. It's never really been my style per se, and having one of these stock tanks is a great way to just get them kind of trotting around.
Yeah, and they're good size. I mean, you can get a Great Dane in there and lay them down.
Yeah.
So they're a pretty good size. I don't know if they make various sizes, but I know
they do actually. They make a 50-gallon, which is what we use, and then they make a 100-gallon. The 100-gallon is just way too deep. It's actually the same size dimensions, but the 100-gallon is really deep. So
I might crawl into a 100-gallon.
Yeah, you could turn it into an ice bath for yourself, right? So some of the things that we suggest is when it's warm outside, it's pretty taxing as it is. So if you're going to do any type of exercise, it shouldn't be anything super strenuous. Like when I take my dogs out right now, I love to play frisbee with my dogs. And there's Vader and Foxy after playing a little frisbee in the yard, and you can see their tongues are really hanging out. So I usually try to keep it to just under 5 throws. 5 throws, we're done. That's it. You got it out of your system. But I'm really watching them closely. I'm not allowing them to go follow me on the bike or, run for long periods of time. It's just too much for them. So finding other activities, mental exercises for your dog, and doing those things indoors is
I've been teaching. I taught the last 3 lessons today. I taught tricks just to give those people something to do indoors. I taught them some rudimentary tricks: playing dead, waving bye-bye, touching the ball with their nose. They love it, and customers love it. The dog's having a ball, and we did it all in a very small space, the eval room.
Yep.
So that's what I do to try to help my clients understand that I'm a taskmaster, as you know, but I don't expect them to go out there and doing 15, 20 minutes of long line work in this weather. I don't expect it. But if they can keep that dog mentally taxed, it's still moving them forward. We'll get back on the long lines when the weather breaks. It's all right.
Yeah, for those of you that are treadmill owners, have a treadmill at home inside, that can be a way for you to get your dog some exercise. Yep. And we do treadmill training here. We have a treadmill on site. And Shannon, who's one of our fitness certified canine fitness trainers, does all of our treadmill work. And so if you have a treadmill and you wanted to get your dog familiarized with it and you're just kind of unsure where to start, I know that she would be happy to provide some insight and help to do that. But I think that treadmill is a great thing. Another tool that I don't know that we spend a lot of time talking about it, but it's like one of my favorite things is that manners minder, or the treat and train, I guess is what it's called.
I'm actually getting ready to introduce Flash, the new Doberman, to that. I almost did it this Sunday, but I ran out of time, but that's coming. I'll be doing a lot of training with that. I'm planning on videotaping it. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those can be placed at the top of a staircase, and it can be a good little workout for your dog, having to go up and down the stairs and do different exercises. So something else for you to consider looking at. So George, let's talk about, with dogs that get hot, first off, what are some of the early signs of dehydration? The dog is starting to become dehydrated.
Well, you'll see the dog trying to hunt up some water somewhere. That's first thing. But panting, if you're worried that you're getting into that danger zone, if you take and lift their lip, and their gums would be pink. If they're looking kind of red, like brick red, you're probably getting there in a hurry. And if you push on it, you push on the gums, they'll go white for a second, and then the blood will quickly recolor it. And when they're dehydrated, it doesn't come back very quick. So if you even think you've been out too long, you probably have been. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, but that's it. I've seen dogs almost act punch drunk. They're kind of wobbling and stuff. And what I tell my students, I'm not a veterinarian, but I've been around. Get their belly wet in a hurry, and I don't care how you do it. I'll dump them in a creek or whatever you need to do, but get that heat dissipated, and then don't let them gulp the water.
Yep.
Like, give it to them, but kind of just give them as much as you think they need, but don't just let them stick their head in a bucket. Right.
Drink a little bit, and then come back and have a little more.
Yeah. So, but again, that brick red gums is usually your dead giveaway. But if you're there, like you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So
you're at that heat stroke point.
Exactly.
And that's a pretty dangerous place to be.
Yep.
Which generally, when your dog is at that point, you're seeing, even more heavy panting, some excessive drooling. You mentioned the color of the gums.
Yeah. If you pinch their skin, like right behind their neck, you can lift it, and if you just pull up on their skin, does it snap back, or is it kind of stay there?
Yeah,
that's a good indicator.
Very good indicator of dehydration. Balance. If you see the dogs not maintaining their normal balance, you're definitely in the heat stroke zone. So pay attention to that. And, depending on what part of the country you're in, I know we have several people who watch this from all over the country. And depending on where you're at, you may need to treat things differently. Here in Maryland, we have some very humid weather. And that humid hot weather is very different than the dry hot weather. And so it's just kind of something to keep in mind.
Right. The air is literally thicker. And dogs have a harder time processing it versus, I've been out to Las Vegas too, probably the same place you were at.
Yep.
And, it's different. It's hot. It's definitely hot, but it's a different kind of hot here. Even at 80 degrees with, 70% humidity, man, it's just the air just lays on you. So it is different. So obviously it's geography specific as far as what you do.
Yeah. So let's transition here and maybe kind of switch gears and talk about weather safety and severe weather safety. To be more specific, I got a notification on my phone earlier that we're supposed to have some.
Yeah, it was threatening when I came in.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we're supposed to maybe get some pretty good storms. And so one of the things that we do here at DogiZone, we put little notification icons on all of the dogs that come in who have anxiety about thunderstorms, and that's part of our screening process and our application process for dogs to come here, so that when we know that there's a storm coming, we're aware of what dogs we need to keep an extra close eye on. Let's talk a little bit about, first off, why do dogs have this anxiety about thunderstorms? I know there's a lot of different reasons, but let's just maybe hit on like one or two quick points about it, and then we can start talking about where are some of the solutions, because I know there's more than one of you that are watching this that are struggling with this with your dog.
Right. So, well, first of all, the noise of a thunderstorm, especially if you get a really close lightning strike where you just get that crack that rattles the windows, that's going to spook most any dog.
And people too, right?
Yeah, and people too. But theory has it, and it has to be theory because, my old quote, nobody's ever interviewed a dog, is the barometric pressure changes signals the dogs that this, in their fur, through their systems there, that this heavy storm is imminent. So that builds some instinctual anxiety right there, shelter, survival. It's been considered that static electricity begins to build up in their fur, and they pick up on that, and that makes them more nervous. I have seen this with my own eyes. Some dogs will actually try to ground themselves, like by hiding in a metal bathtub or they get up against pipes. Theory, no one's ever interviewed a dog, so I always caution people. It supposedly unloads that static.
Mm-hmm.
I have, and I still do advise, if you have one of those dogs that's kind of worried about it, get some dryer sheets. The stuff down there sitting on top of your washing machine, and rub them down with it. Those are anti-static.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs don't smell bad either after you do it. It can't hurt, but I can't promise you it'll help.
Right.
But it can't hurt, so guess what we do? Actually, our dogs are pretty well squared away. We don't have a lot of that. I never have suffered from that. But people who do, it's not a cure, but it helps take the edge off. I'm also a big fan of a product called Rescue Remedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not drugs. I don't want to dope the dog up, but stuff takes the edge off. An eyedropper full underneath the tongue. It's
Mm-hmm.
available at most like health food stores and stuff. Hopefully, I think we should carry it at our new place when we open up. So doing that sort of thing. But every dog's different. The sound levels, you got to understand, they hear at completely different frequencies than us. They're probably hearing that thunder half an hour before we ever hear it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
So you just try to help them get through it, not over it. Just tell them to get through it.
Yeah, usually one of our dogs, she's like the barker of the three. And yeah, I mean, she barks and we're like, what are you barking at? And then, 15, 20 minutes later, there's the storm rolling in, and it's like, right. Okay, yeah, they totally do pick up on it.
This is where some people think it's barometric pressure changes, or there's a whole host of things that kind of pile in there and give them the complete picture, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just try to make sure they don't panic and damage themselves, and, try to make them feel better as best you can. It's all you can do.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the supplements are definitely worth a shot, and can't hurt a whole lot trying something like that. For really, really severe cases, talk to your vet. Your veterinarian may recommend medication for your dogs. One of the things that became very popular several years back were the Thunder shirts, and it's essentially like a fitted shirt that you put on your dog, and they're kind of funny looking, because you see these dogs with like these muscle vests on almost. But in talking to some of my clients over the years, I've had a couple people share with me that they found that it helped their dog. It didn't eliminate the issue per se, but I did receive good feedback that it helped. Yeah. And I think that those have some static reduction qualities to them from what I've heard.
I think the compression has a lot to do with
that
it. The famous, I don't know if you want to call her behaviors, but Temple Grandin, who was a high functioning autistic, built herself a box. I think she called it her hug box or something. She'd get in it when she was feeling like uneasy, and this thing would squeeze her. And I was just talking a couple of days ago about that. If it's the same concept, if we compress these, does it settle things down? Don't know, man. But if it helps, I'm all for it, even if it's stupid looking. What I do, and maybe people save a little money, is go over to the Salvation Army or whatever and pick up some children's T-shirts for 50 cents or whatever, and cut the sleeves out of them and get it, buy it a little smaller than you think you need, and squeeze that puppy in there and call it good. I don't know. So
yeah, I mean, with people that are really suffering from this type of issue, it is worth it to try anything, because some of the situations can be pretty challenging for people.
Right.
So, just another thing is making sure that, when you start recognizing the signs of fear in the dog, and most of you who have owned dogs for long enough are pretty familiar with your dog's body language when they're fearful. And if not, you definitely need to read up and get yourself more familiarized with it so you can recognize these signs soon and early. And the earlier we can recognize these, the better. We can get them inside, and we can do everything that we can to try to drown out the noise of the storm that's coming through, whether it's thunder or wind or heavy rain. So playing fans, calm music. There's all sorts of different things that you can do. White noise machines. Some of it's, makes it very difficult. If you get a really serious storm, you may not be able to drown it all out. But again, what we're suggesting here, there's no one thing that you do to eliminate your dog's anxiety. It's about what are all of the little things that you can do? What are all of the little minute changes that you can make? It. Exactly.
So, and I like to teach the following. Fear comes up a lot. The word fear, and fear there's layers. There's what I call concern. This is not a dog that's in fear, but they're certainly suspicious or concerned about what's going on. Then you have a dog that obviously is anxious, and you can take all the layers you want. Now, hopefully you get up into panic. Once your dog's in panic, you just hold on for the ride and make sure they survive it. This is what happens at July 4th. These dogs run off. That's a pure level panic. They're not present mentally. You're not going to call them back.
Right.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And you got to go get them. So understand, if you assume the dog is fearful and they're really just a little concerned, but you act on full fear, you kind of overdoing it. You might even start reinforcing the actions that the dog's taking. You know what I mean? So there's a level. I'm not one of these people that say, don't feed the fear, but be careful what you feed. You know what I mean? Again, it's about using your common sense there. You don't want to hit it with a sledgehammer when all you need is a little bit of a tap on the head. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
No, I think that's a great point, not to overdo it. Sometimes our reaction is a very emotional reaction to what we're seeing in the dogs. And the best thing that we can do is to be as logical as possible and try not to have an over emotional reaction to what's going on.
Right. Most of the time my dogs hear, hey man, get a grip, and they, because of my confidence, they pick up on that. Hey man, you ain't going to die. I'm not going to let you die. Come on over here, lay down.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit and see. It'll be okay. Some dogs might need that, but if the dog's going to feed off of how you're being, you start getting emotional, they're going to get emotional too. Yeah. So I'm fairly unemotional guy, as you know. So.
A couple other things to just keep in mind would be, making sure that you got an area that the dog is comfortable, that's safe, where if they panic, then they will not necessarily cause damage to themselves or to the house. Keep a light on in that area, which can help them, reduce the amount of lightning that they may see, which, could be frightening if they're not used to that type of thing. And, of course, when you're, dealing with a dog that has this type of concern, it's, just great to make sure that you've got proper identification on your dog, make sure that your dog is microchipped. Sometimes these storms and things like that happen when we're not there. When we're not around. And we want to make sure that if we're not there, that, God forbid anything crazy happened, that we did have a way to identify the dog and to hopefully get them back. So just one other thing that I would keep in mind.
Yeah, because you are home. I do tell a pretty famous story in my life. I came home after some heavy storms back when I was living in Kensington. I let the dogs out. I look up. There ain't no fence. Fence been there 20 years. Ain't no fence. So a storm had come through, took out a tree took out the fence, and these my dogs and the dogs next door used to fence fight. And before, I'm walking out on the deck and they're all heading, and that guy just got home. His dogs were out. We were friends, and they're all heading for the fence. And the funniest thing happened. They all got to where the fence is, where they usually fence fight, There's no fence. You know what they all did? They stopped, just sit there, look at each other like, what? They didn't know what to do. We put the fence up a week later. They was back to fence fighting. It was crazy.
Interesting how that works.
Yeah,
huh?
isn't it?
It is.
So, yeah, that was pretty crazy. I learned a lot on that one.
You know, I vaguely remember a story of somebody whose dog had, like, I think thunderstorm phobia, and a tornado came through.
Oh, that's a longer story, man. We'll be here a half hour if I tell that one. But that was, I consider, one of the pinnacles of what I've been able to do with dogs and help them get through stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was like, to make a long story short, I mean, ultimately you trained the dog.
I trained the dog
place.
what to do to go to place. Essentially, this tornado, or they think they called it a microburst, blew the roof off the house. You could look up and see the sky.
Yep.
The woman was hiding under or in a closet. I mean, this like came rolling through. It was in Olney. And she come out, and the dog's sitting on the hearth rug just like I taught her to do. Full on, blow the roof off storm, and the dog didn't run off. A year prior, that dog could crawl under a bed and not eat or drink for 4 days if someone slammed the car door.
There you go.
True story. I mean, it's a long one, but it was a great one.
Well, that just goes to show, like, you know, putting in that basic foundation of obedience and really making that a lifestyle. You don't know when it's going to benefit you. But we got one question that came in here. Matt asked if creating loud noises help train your dog to be less scared of the loud noises.
Absolutely, if you start early enough and do it correctly. Absolutely. Us old gun dog guys know that for a fact. When you're raising up a new pup, you're closing the dryer door hard, the washer, the dish, you know, you banging your pots while you're cooking, just normal everyday noises amplified.
Mm-hmm.
And it really goes a million miles with getting a dog that isn't overly reactive to sharp noises. So now you have a dog that's already upset about sharp noise. You start banging pots and pans. I don't know, you're going to have a problem. But yeah, if you start a puppy early, like, you know, some of our trainers recently acquired some puppies. I had Milton's new puppy on top of the storage shed, the plastic storage shed the other day.
Yeah.
Milton's holding on, and I'm beating on that thing, and I'm loving the puppy, and I'm feeding him, I'm giving him treats, and I'm banging, I'm making all kinds of racket. That dog's like, I love this.
Yeah.
You know, so
creating a lot of positive association.
Exactly. Yeah, he was having a good time. He got half my treat pouch. I'm serious. It sounded like a thunderstorm. I was kicking that thing and doing that. Milton's wondering, I'm out of my mind. You know, so, but yeah,
good
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, but if you already have a dog that's already, you need to come up from below and get higher. So we have a dog. Let's say you have a dog that, I don't know, let's use gunshots because, anyway, you don't start off with gunshots. You start off with a CD or something on level 1. That's what I did with that little dog in Olney.
Mm-hmm.
You know, thunderstorm CDs we used. And then for a while, just constantly running, looping. And then we'd run it up on 2 for a while, 3, and until we got up to where it sounded like a Wagnerian opera.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 100%. Dun, 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 crash, boom, dog sitting on the hearth rug.
Yep.
And then the storm came. So, yeah, sound, you can do a lot of training with sound, and I suggest you do it. That's why I'm always blowing whistles and, yeah, I do all kinds of stuff, noisy. Like all of our equipment out there, all that nice aluminum stuff, maybe some good noise. The stanchions for the roof, bam, bam, bam. I'm doing that puppies all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't overlook it. I think definitely creating loud noises during training, especially with a dog that you know you're socializing, is a great thing to do. Just need to be able to go about it strategically. It's not something that I would suggest doing in a flooding type of format where we are just overwhelming the dog with loud noises. It's definitely not,
yeah. You don't want to be chasing the dog
taking.
with it. It's just it becomes ambient.
Right.
Loud becomes ambient. And that's, I think, the difference in it. You know, like with all the gun dogs I've trained, I have these blank pistols. They're pretty loud because you can put bigger blanks in them. So, but I'll get them far away there, and they're down there playing. I'm just going boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
I'm not going boom, 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 and it's just there.
Yep.
and closer and closer. And
before you know it,
yep,
nothing bothers them, right?
exactly right.
So we're going to go ahead and put a bow tie on things. We hope that you guys found this evening helpful. And of course, if you know anybody who has a dog that you think could benefit from hearing what we spoke about tonight, we'd love it if you shared this with them. We are actually going to be moving away from our monthly Ask the Doggy Experts Live, and we'll be going to a little bit less frequent schedule. So we will not see you in August. But we will probably see you sometime after school is back in session. So that's like a really funny thing, but yeah, school back in session in September. Chances are you'll see us sometime around then. We really appreciate all of you that were able to join us this evening and listen in, and thank you for your time. We certainly appreciate it. Hope you have a better than great day. Look forward to seeing you soon.